past, the present, and future impact of COVID. And to share their views, we have a panel of experts from across different industry verticals, right? So by the end of the session, we are hoping that each one of you would have got a different perspective and would have broadened your horizons as well.
Unique and new, and that's how Cognition Conclaves is the first thing which occurred to us. And along with that, we also have opened up, WOW has branched out into a music school as well. So as you all might be aware of it, we have opened up instruments and Carnatic, along with Carnatic vocals. The Carnatic instruments are also being taught at World of Wellness.
So these are some of our flagship programs as well, right? So educational systems are online and not everybody are comfortable with the online mode of education. So even students and young adults are facing problems with that. So very well answered. Thanks to the audience.
Personal and professional life. So it was like no more professional life stress management versus personal life stress management, but it is altogether a new method of managing stress and anxiety.
Second speaker was Mr. Rajarao, and Rajarao also, like Ram, has got years of experience. And he is a global professional with rich experience diversity in terms of roles, industries, companies, domains, and geographies that he has worked in.
Just taking a more general view. So first of all, these are the topics I'll cover. So first of all, beginning with nature and technology. A couple of years ago, driving to work, I used to listen to BBC podcasts, and one of them was 30 Animals That Made Us Smarter. And I recall one of the podcasts there, it was about ants. And there was one mathematician or researcher who studied these ants, how they leave their home, forage for food. One scout ant would find food, then, it'll bring some food back, and a lot of other ants will go where the food is. And once in a while, what would happen is that the food source may change, or there were rains or some landslide, or the paths got washed away that they were used to, and they would find a new path to their food, and all the ants would eat and all that. And based out of this research, what the mathematician scientists did was they developed an algorithm which was actually used for the internet. And what happens in the internet when we send an email, it gets broken to packets, they go through different paths, and it gets to the destination. And sometimes, the links get broken, but the messages, follow other paths. So it was using what the ants did. So we learned from nature to apply to science and technology. Now, during the pandemic, in my household, and I'm sure it will be similar in yours also, we've gone more digital. We're doing everything from home, from working to teaching to learning to shopping to entertainment, ordering food, ordering supplies, you name it. So the digital, path has become critical. It has grown. And I'm going to talk a little bit about manufacturing and semiconductor manufacturing, given my background. And manufacturing is a little different than services, or quite different. In manufacturing, what happens is that your raw materials can be from one place, the goods produced in another place, it gets stored in a third place, gets transported, comes to a shop, and finally it comes to your home or office. So the place of production and place of consumption are quite different. And I'm going to talk a bit about semiconductor manufacturing, since our usage of information technology has gone up quite a bit. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. Little different, but I thought it'll be useful to you to know what's happening during the COVID times and how things happen. Now, this is a little busy slide. I have only 2 slides, so this is the last slide. But what happens is, let's take a car, for example. In the car, you have a high-end car, there may be a GPS device built in, or otherwise, even if it's a LED based, display panel, it has some electronics. And what happens? We'll just work backwards. So if you go from your right to left here in this diagram, so let's say cars, you go to the left here, there's some devices on the other. I'm not sure if you can see the mouse or not, but I'm looking at the middle right. There are all these electronic devices where it says, if you open one of those up, what you see is to the left, it's a printed circuit board. And if you look closely at the printed circuit board, there will be some integrated chip, IC package, it's called, these black things out there. You go more to the left, it's called a die, which is actually the brains of the electronics. And how are these dies made? They are made from, they're made from these semiconductor wafers, which is the circular thing you see in the middle left. It's called processed silicon. And where does that come from? If you go further up, what you see is, these blank wafers, which are the discs at the top left. And above that are these cylindrical ingots, silicon ingots. And the raw material for the silicon ingot is sand. And sand is available in plenty around the earth. So again, from nature, we're, creating the brains that are used in the electronic devices for all, the information we are consuming, generating, etc. The other thing is, we may not think about it, but, we are using WhatsApp a lot, or, we're consuming movies and, streaming videos, etc. What happens? We may, click on a link or, watch a YouTube video or, watch a Netflix, Amazon Prime movie. But what's actually happening is that we're getting that information from data centers. And data centers, we don't see them, but they are like huge football-like size buildings with thousands, tens of thousands of servers. A lot of electronics for all the Google, Amazon, payments, everything else we do. So this is just the slide. And one of the things that's also happened with electronics is that there's something called Moore's Law, which states that within 18 months, if you're buying a certain device, let's say a chip here for 100 rupees, in 18 months time, you can afford the same chip, same functionality for 50 rupees. Or if you're paying 100 rupees and, for a chip in 18 months time, you can get double the amount of, features and double the amount of transistors, etc. in 18 months time. So that's why if you look back at the cell phones you have today versus what you had 20 years ago, what we had 20 years ago was very primitive to what we have today. So electronics is, growing really fast, and what COVID has done is it's accelerated our usage of that. Now, what's also happened with this Moore's Law is that it's cheaper to build, these electronics on large scales, and new factories cost US $10 billion to build. I'm looking at the blue thing on the lower left corner there. It costs $10 billion for each factories, and $10 billion would be one followed by 10 zeros. You convert that into rupees, multiplied by 74. It's like a huge investment for each factory. And not everybody can afford it. And what's happened over the past, 20, 30 and more years is that the small players have been consolidating so that they can stay in business and continue to manufacture. What's also happened is that in semiconductor manufacturing, the companies have become specialized. Fabless versus foundry. Fabless is like who work only on the designs. If you take the house analogy, it's, they're making only the blueprints. And the foundry is like the construction, they're doing only the construction. So that specialization's happened. And what's also happened is that if there were factories in the, let's say, the more Western developed world, US, Europe, they found it cheaper to manufacture in fabs in Asia. So those were some of the things happen. You can see the names here. And I would say the main concern I would say here is the, one on the middle left, the big disk that you see, the silicon wafer processing, the brains of the electronics. You see the leaders here are Taiwan, South Korea, Japan. They are, quite close to China, and a lot of it's coming from Asia. And with COVID, some countries they had to lock down, and they could not manufacture, or there's issues with transportation, things like that. There was bad weather, things like that. So the biggest markets, let's say in the US, they're having difficulty in getting electronics to make their cars and things like that. So one of the trends that I'm already beginning to see is that the rich nations like US, they're starting to move their silicon process manufacturing back, to their home soil. It may take a few years to complete and get this infrastructure, but that has started in US, and they're beginning to invest more infrastructure, and that may happen in Europe and other developed nations too. So that's one trend that I'm seeing. All right, let's go back to the other slide. In terms of future and growth opportunities, what I also see is that apart from semiconductor manufacturing shifting to home countries, what will the workplace be like? And some places may want, things back as normal, fully physical. Some people may say, companies may say, work from home completely. But I think the future is going to be hybrid, where you have a balance of both. And other things that can also happen is, with more information technology uses, crime, cybersecurity laws, policies, etc., need to be applied towards working from home. More usage of the digital technologies, things like that. But with all this, more usage of digital technology, work from home, that brings new challenges, and there would be opportunities to get back to basics also, like the quiet time Ram mentioned, going back to pranayama, yoga, meditation, or back to things the way it used to be. You step away from the digital devices which have come into our lives and have some quiet time for a few hours or a day, things like that. So those will also, grow. So in terms of my personal key learnings were, if I could go outside, go inside, focus on principles, be resilient, figure out a way, just like the ants figure out a way to get to their food. I think humankind also, we need to figure out a way to do things, and I believe we are all doing that. And lastly, message to humankind, I would say two things. One is at all levels, government, corporate, community, families, individual, we need to do these two things. One is, respect nature, give importance to biodiversity, maybe, create a portfolio to that, to take care of our Mother Earth. And the other thing is, one of the things I've noticed with the proliferation of these digital devices is that the division among humanity has also occurred. The opinions we have, it can alienate us. So, diversity is important, but I think unity is more important. So we need to, work together with the differences and be more united. And it'll be great if, again, everybody pays importance to that. So that's the end of my presentation. It's been a pleasure interacting with you all. If you have any questions, please put in the chat box and I'll answer it at the end. Thank you, everyone. Over, back to you, Karthik and Vinay. you.